I'm a committed Byler truther. I used to just not really care about it or Maleven. I didn't even know of the ship's existence until about a year ago, and when I learned more about it, I kind of just brushed it aside as silly fanfiction. My stupid contrarian self was actually going to make a video for Maleven until I actually realized you literally just can't. And that's why the entire argument against Byler consists of Mike is straight or Byler fans are delusional. The relationship of Maleven is so poorly written and lacking in chemistry that your own fans can't even come up with any real evidence to support it that isn't just arguing against Byler and calling its fans delusional instead. The biggest thing that I've seen being argued about is whether or not the LGBT representation was actually good. Generally, up until Volume 2, I think that it was decent. It was at least better than a lot of other mainstream shows have ever done. Robin's coming out scene to Steve is my personal favorite scene in that entire season. It adds a simple twist that subverts our expectations of what normally happens in TV shows, and is a decision that is actually better for both characters. It really doesn't feel like they just wanted to check their representation box when they created this character.
Another new addition is Robin, who works at the shopping mall with Steve. Now naturally, she's smarter and better than him at everything, and she can decode an encrypted Russian transmission using just a dictionary, because I'm sure they were that easy to figure out. Oh, and she's gay. If it seems like I just dropped that in there for no reason at all, then great, because that's basically what the show does too. Gotta tick that representation box somehow, I guess.
Will's character arc in Volume 1 of Season 5 was a beautiful showing of the power that comes with loving yourself. When Will finally accepted himself at the end of Sorcerer was when he finally unlocked that power that was hidden inside him. And I assumed that the lesson they were trying to teach her was that the ability to fully accept who he was gave him power, that once he stopped being so scared of who he was, he could finally be free. He doesn't need anyone else's acceptance, he just needs his own, and once he attains that, he can over time gain the respect he deserves from others. It was such an empowering scene for Will and gay people as a whole, and it stands as my favorite scene in the entire show, regardless of how it is completely contradicted in Volume 2. Speaking of which, the coming out scene is straight up the worst scene in the entire show, and it's honestly such a disempowering scene that just takes so many steps back in terms of representation. First off, it really just didn't need to happen. Will's emotional journey for the first 4 episodes is perfect on its own, and it showed that it was always just about him needing to accept himself, not anyone else. My headcanon is that this arc just ended after Sorcerer, but I digress. The thing that this coming out scene does that everyone is complaining about is the fact that everyone and their mother is here for literally no reason, which is a valid criticism. But my problem doesn't lie in the amount of people here, it's the fact that this season takes place within a week's time, which means that Will is now coming out to this group of people after he just finally accepted who he is. And now you're just having him come out to everyone? I don't think Will needed to come out to anyone, but if this scene was going to happen, the only 2 people I would accept being here are his brother and or his mom. If Byler was going to be canon, then maybe Mike too, I guess. Even then, it should have happened during the epilogue, if anything, not mere days after the scene from Sorcerer took place. Will wasn't ready to come out at this point, especially when coming out as gay in the 80s, during the height of the AIDS epidemic, might I add, wasn't just terrifying, it was actually dangerous. Many people were badly harmed, or worse if people found out. I feel like the same people that complain about people not understanding that the LGBT representation was good for the time period are the same people that praise this scene and treat Will's sexuality as an insecurity that he overcomes by coming out to everyone. I've seen many queer people claim that they cried during this scene, but not because they were happy, because they were distressed or felt severely misrepresented in a personal way. Coming out is one of the scariest things that a lot of queer people can do, because for one, it puts you in such a vulnerable state, usually not really knowing if the person you are coming out to will still respect you or not. If they do, will they still treat you the same? It sounds pretty terrifying. While I like most of this cast, I can't help but think that realistically, not all of them would be so quick to smile and be understanding. Definitely Jonathan, but I'm really not sure about anyone else, especially people like Murray. On top of that, admitting you have feelings for someone, especially for people like Will, is one of the hardest things that you can do, and it was just completely brushed aside as an unrequited crush that he needs to get over. I never thought that I would dislike an episode of Stranger Things this much, but here we are. Not every queer person has the same story of self-acceptance. People like to joke about things like this, but there is no such thing as a canon event. Everyone has their own journey. Comparing Mike Wheeler to Tammy Thompson is a complete disservice to not only the characters of Mike and Will, but to all the queer people who are now going to assume that their first love is always going to be unrequited, and that they need to get over it. To the people that relate to this feeling, great, but that doesn't mean that Will's feelings are wrong to have, and it doesn't turn Mike into a simple hallway crush like Tammy was. We've seen proof that Will's feelings for Mike are just as real as Lucas's love for Max or Joyce's love for Hopper, yet the gay crush is the one that is compared to the unrequited crushes that the Duffer Brothers had growing up. Keep in mind that in the van scene, Will literally says that he needs Mike and that he always will. What's worse is that after this whole coming out scene, Mike and Will's relationship wasn't intended to receive any further development, and that Noah literally had to ask the Duffer Brothers to include that final scene on the radio tower. This means that we were never going to get any closure on Byler, though after that scene on the radio tower, I kind of would have been fine if they didn't include it. Like, they absolutely knew what they were doing there. On the emotional side of things, if Will was going to come out to one of the people I said earlier, I think it was handled okay. It definitely could have been worse. I kind of liked when Will said that in the visions Vecna showed him, people began to push him away or worry for him after he came out, and it made him feel like there was something wrong with him. If they were going to use the Vecna visions thing for this though, wouldn't it have been nice to at least see the visions? It really felt like that reveal just came out of nowhere. Maybe I would have actually cared if they took the time to show us that Vecna has been doing this and how much it hurt Will. I think that the representation could have been so much better, but at the end of the day, it was honestly just doomed to fail. The Duffer Brothers are both straight men, and generally two guys being intimate with each other is much less accepted by the straight majority than two girls or hetero couples, especially by straight guys. I'm not saying they're homophobic, I don't think that they are, but I am saying that we have certain thoughts that are forced into our heads by society, regardless of whether we want them or not. I even fell into that trap at one point, and Byler and Another Show were literally the things that dug me out of that hole. It's now one of my favorite ships in media history, and it's honestly fried me so much that I don't get the same enjoyment or investment in most straight romances, especially slow burn ones. The journey is just less interesting for me personally. When I said at the end of my video on Robin's speech that I thought Byler needed to happen because Will needed to get a happy ending, many people misunderstood what I meant by that. I didn't mean that Mike needed to be with Will because Will's my favorite character. I meant that the writers dug themselves into a big Byler-shaped hole, and at that point it was far too late to give Will any significant love interest, which was needed to make this representation actually good. The Duffer Brothers are so set on the fact that it was most important to teach queer people that oftentimes the person they like is going to be straight and won't reciprocate their feelings. Don't you think that it's such a stupid thing to teach queer people like they don't already know that? Especially since the character they are doing this to is Will, the one with the most heartbreaking story already. It is so much more important to teach them that sometimes the person they like can like them back, and that they can be happy and loved. Even the one queer couple in the entire show doesn't get any closure. They just say, maybe they're together, maybe they aren't, you decide. Like, you wrote it. They also present Robin as more femme in the epilogue, which isn't inherently bad. It's not like lesbians can't present as more feminine, but that was kind of her whole look, and it just feels like they are completely erasing that and brushing it aside as not important. Also, don't even try to convince me that Will's epilogue boyfriend was a good thing. Because for one, that was all in Mike's head, meaning that we don't know if that actually happens or not. Also, this episode literally gave us nothing as to how Will is doing outside of being gay. If you remember, Will is also an amazing artist. Instead of putting him in a gay bar and saying that he finds happiness and acceptance there, maybe he could have been shown at art school or something like that. Just not the most surface level trait that he has. Or you could have actually shown us that Will is finally happy. Like, I saw this one post on the Byler subreddit where Will is being friendly with another guy at the gay bar, who's kind of new to this sort of thing, and letting him know that he's not alone. This guy then starts trying to flirt with him, and he reveals that he already has a boyfriend, only to reveal Mike standing behind him. This is the kind of ending I wanted, and it didn't even have to be Mike, though I would have liked it better. It could have just been ambiguous, but all they had to do was show that Will finally accepted himself and found happiness, and is now ready to help others do the same. And since the Duffer Brothers refused to write their own ending, I'm choosing to believe that this is canon. You can't tell me I'm wrong, since it's all up to interpretation apparently. Since I'm finally done ranting about Will's garbage ending, I guess it's time to talk about what this video is actually supposed to be focused on, which is the ship war between Byler shippers and the rest of Stranger Things fans. When this show was still being talked about, I saw so many people who were reviewing Stranger Things or just talking about it mention Byler and its fans for absolutely no reason.
Mike and Eleven's relationship, it seems completely different than it was at the end of season 4. So I kind of understand why the delusional Byler fans were like, oh my god, maybe they broke up in between seasons, even though that didn't really happen.
I'm not gonna say that Byler fans are the greatest either, but they certainly don't go around saying that Maleven fans are stupid and homophobic for no reason, at least from what I've seen. It's not even actual Maleven shippers that are the worst of it, it's just the regular Stranger Things fans. A lot of Maleven shippers are actually really nice, and can see why people ship Byler. They understand what it's like to love a ship. Not the subreddit, if you go there it's kinda just chaos. But in general, I haven't had nearly as many bad experiences with them. It's all the people that can't accept that gay ships are just as normal as straight ships, and that Mike doesn't have to like Will back for the ship to exist. If you really opened your mind up and actually started to listen, you would see how beautiful of a ship Byler is, regardless if it is canon or not. These people mostly just argue for Maleven not because they like them as a couple, but because they hate Byler and its fans. I'm not sure why. I mean, homophobia is an obvious reason, but we can't always coin people as homophobic just because they don't like Byler. So another reason that I came up with was the thing that I talked about earlier, which is societal norms and heteronormativity, which does make a lot more sense. Most people believe that Mike Wheeler can't have feelings for Will because he is dating a girl, and in doing that you erase the existence of not only closeted gay people, but of bisexual people. Bi erasure is actually a big issue that doesn't get talked about enough, by the way. Just putting that out there. A lot of people like to call us delusional because there's no evidence that Mike is gay. While us Byler truthers don't have any concrete proof of Mike being gay or of Byler being canon, we do have so much evidence to support our theory. Evidence is not the same as proof, and if you just actually watched one Byler video or read one post, you would understand just how much evidence we have. Delusional comes from a Latin word meaning deceiving. It basically means to deceive yourself by believing in something that is not plausible. I don't think Byler shippers fall into that category. Sure, some of the evidence people have is far-fetched, but most of it is very believable and thought-provoking if you choose to think about it. It actually makes perfect sense for the story more often than not, so I don't think we should just throw around the word as a means of avoiding argument. A final thing that I wanted to bring up is this little fanfiction I read called You Took My Heart, I Was Sleeping. It's a Byler fanfiction, but it's also a Stranger Things story that fixes pretty much all of my problems with the characters of Season 5 in almost every way. It is one of the most well-written, slow-burn romances I've ever read. If you're in the Byler community and you somehow haven't heard of this fanfiction, this is the story of Mike and Will's time together at the Wheeler house during a power outage, as they begin to rekindle their bond that has been all but lost. There's a reason that this is one of the most popular fanfics out there right now. It just does so many things right, and it honestly feels like the writer Lame Parties understands Stranger Things better than the creators. They make decisions that are actually better for the story, not just for Byler, but for all the characters. Will and Eleven are actually close, which in turn makes Eleven one of the most likable characters in this story. Ted Wheeler is confirmed to be homophobic, which actually highlights the terrifying aspect of coming out as gay in the 1980s. And it actually brings up the painting lie as a major plot point. It's also a rather intimate story between Mike and Will, which I don't see too often in stories with gay couples. It's seriously so good. If you are a Byler fan and haven't read it, you will be amazed. I'm not even big on fanfiction, it's just so hard to get right. But this one is genuinely a masterpiece. 10 out of 10, no notes. I'm sorry that my upload schedule is so inconsistent. I try to upload at least once a month, but it's really hard since I have to fully script my videos other than this part at the end where I try to not completely script it. I'm not very good at speaking off the top of my head, which is why I'm so bad at debating. It's also why some of my videos may feel clunky or unorganized. This will probably be the last Byler video I make, but I will still stick around after this. I'm planning to talk about other shows and romantic ships that I like, and also shows that have better queer representation. I'm probably going to be irrelevant for a while after I stop making Byler videos, but hopefully some people choose to stick around. Okay, that's all I have to say. Goodbye.